It was 3:12 a.m. when the fire alarm inside a furniture store started ringing, without smoke, without heat, and without a reason. My monitor showed a sliding door labeled "Exit Breathing," like it had lungs. 2 junior techs looked over my shoulder and laughed until the door opened onto a horizon of fluorescent lights that never ended. The camera zoomed in. I was curious, like a fly lured into a fly trap. That was until the entrance sealed with a hum you could feel in your molars. I'm RAISA. I work in RAISA, the Foundation's memory. Now, surely you've heard the nickname, the Infinite Store, right? The official file name is SCP-3008. We used to use it to store entities in the past, and to explain why we once used it that way, especially for things we couldn't cage. Well, before we stopped, we have to walk into the aisles together. Oh, and if you think infinite is an exaggeration, wait until you see what counts as a night shift in there. On the surface, SCP-3008 is a normal, cheerful big box store. Glass doors, blue and yellow signage, a tangle of model bedrooms and kitchens meant to make you forget you're inside a warehouse. It sells the idea of home by letting you wander through fake homes. That's the first joke. The real store begins the moment you cross the wrong threshold. Our maps of the interior aren't maps, just arguments. The inside is a stitched plane of showrooms and aisles that rearrange themselves like someone dragging furniture in a dream. The ceiling lights drone at a steady pitch. The air smells like cardboard, clean plastic, and a cafeteria. But here's something interesting. The entity itself has its own day and night. What happens in the day cycle? The lights stay bright, the layout behaves, and you could convince yourself this is just some retail store. But the night cycle, the lights dim with a hard click and the staff comes out. We call them 3008-2, tall, soft around the edges, wearing yellow shirts and name tags that don't name anything, faceless but somehow insistent. They repeat exactly one thought in a dozen accents. The store is closed. Please leave. During the night cycle, they patrol in packs, calm until they aren't. During the day, they stand stock still in the middle of an aisle as if waiting for instructions. But that's not all that's there. Some people who get trapped exist throughout the entity. They build towns between shelving units, walling their settlements with bed slats and kitchen tables. They usually name these places after whatever sign hangs overhead: customer service, lighting, returns. They trade. They farm the food that appears in the cafeterias, freezers, and the dangerous employee break rooms. And recently we found out, every once in a while, someone stumbles back out into our world clutching a receipt from 10 years ago for something they never bought. That's the SCP-3008 history you'll read in its open file. The rest of it, how the doors choose, how the layout learns your stride, lives in our recordings. I once watched 6 hours of a recording where there was a woman who tried to turn a corner, and the corner kept moving 2 centimeters to her left. That clip unfortunately ends with 3008-2, and no, I cannot go into detail. Why? Because your brain does not need to learn what it does to you. There was a brief, orderly period when 3008 looked like a gift. It was a place that eats distance, hides pathways, and muffles radio until speech feels like a rumor. If you can push a problem inside a maze that changes while the problem is walking, the problem shouldn't come out. At least, that was the theory. We trialed some temporary transfers. They were high-risk entities that shrugged off concrete and lead, but they were predictable. The plan was simple. Open a door when the topology softened, usher the anomaly across with decoys and dampeners, and let the store swallow it like a bad memory. Then lock down the entrance and log them as contained off-site. For a while, it worked. Breach graphs flattened, nightly reports got shorter. I remember an internal memo that read, "Why build a new cell when we can put them into this labyrinth?" It was meant as a joke. I didn't find it funny. I felt one day we would open that door only to find the thing we put away standing 2 inches away. and later, like reality, had a horrible sense of humor, just like that joke. An exit opened in a civilian's loading dock, 200 kilometers away from where we'd sent the problem in. His camera saw the same ceiling, same drone of lights. Then the door just spat the anomaly out like a splinter. We'd been thinking in one direction, inside. The store probably thinks in loops. Shortly after, 2 more surprises followed, the first one being a human who came back. The second, his notes. The timestamps on those notes insisted he'd been gone for a decade, while our clocks insisted he'd been gone 4 months. That's when RAISA put a red band across the folder. No further use as a containment substrate without O5 review. The human was a previous D-class prisoner. Since this D-class was noted as deceased, we had to reintroduce him under a new name. For this recording, he will be referenced as D5711. Since not all the files have been declassified yet, I should clarify that this isn't the number in the file. The real one is expunged for the same reason a lighthouse turns its beam away from the shore every few seconds. Too much light blinds you. His assignment was simple on paper: enter, survive, map what you can, document settlements, push for exits, and leave a paper trail durable enough to outlive him. In our time, he was gone 323 days. Inside, by his own count and by the wear on his bones, he walked a decade. In his first month being there, he was allegedly located in inventory. He taught himself which rooms provided food and which ones lied. After all, there were pristine kitchens with fake fruit. They that stained your fingers with dye and gave no juice. He learned to sleep on top of wardrobes. He told us it was because the staff don't look up unless you make them look up. He learned that the day's path is not useful tomorrow. By month 3, he found customer service, a walled township built from bookshelves and bed slats. They had rules: don't run at night, don't shout, never argue with the staff, and those rules were written in a dozen handwritings on cardboard. He traded labor for bread and their currency, bolts. Eventually, he tried to draw a map, and it seems that not everything changes daily. Based on his map, you can still be able to mark the general locations of places. He left notes, neatly wrapped in plastic, tucked under rug corners, marked with our symbol, but hidden in the spaces where a model sink pretends to connect to a wall. If you find this, keep walking. The signs can lie. The staff follows sound and motion. They ignore heat. They ignore sorrow. That last line is underlined 3 times in a hand that shakes. Around year 6, by his count, he lost the name of the person he was before he got his orange uniform from us. In its place, he put tasks: boil water, ration calories, repair boots, and study the staff from a high shelf. His drawings of them are meticulous: proportions, gait, reach, the way their faceless faces tend to tilt toward noise. By year 9, he stopped looking for management and started looking for an exit. He found a sliding entrance behind a stack of wardrobes labeled in a language that doesn't exist in our world. He didn't go through. He first camped for 2 days and watched. The day cycle arrived. The door became a white wall. The next night cycle, it led to a canyon of boxes with language he didn't recognize. But before the 3rd night, he walked in. It had been 4 months. 4 months after we sent him in. He staggered out into that loading bay, holding a bundle of notebooks sealed in plastic. He sat down on the concrete and didn't move for 11 minutes. I watched that footage twice from the archive and once from the catwalk above the bay when they brought him to medical. Physical changes were visible. He moved like a climber and ran like a sprinter, almost as if the two were compressed into one. Lean mass, elastic stride, a resting stillness that made heart monitors look like they were running slow. After 2 weeks of medical, we ran controlled simulations and then controlled field work. Not inside 3008, however. We'd learned that lesson. But now his goal is to explore the insides of other hostile geometries. In a building where corridors looped, he found the static hinge and marked it without looking down, then got out. Given a room that rearranged itself when named, he stopped using nouns. He described the room as wait and gave it nowhere to go. Surprisingly, D5711 was turned into a unique specimen. That isn't talent. That's 10 years of rehearsals in a place where rehearsal is the only way to keep the lights from destroying you. He became our benchmark for reality-resistant survival. I should mention, he is not superhuman, just trained in a class of rules most people never would have to experience. There's a reason why RAISA writes warnings in plain language. Here it is. D5711 is dangerous, not malicious, not a monster. Dangerous in the way a lightning rod is dangerous if you were to hand it free will. Under the right circumstances, he was a dangerous weapon. He knows how to move in places that don't obey maps. He became a leader in 3008, and the people began to follow him. Our lowest risk path is to treat him like a volatile reagent, stored with care, handled with gloves, like a gun that's never left on a table where not just anyone can touch it. We considered release. We ran scenarios, 32 of them. Half involves people turning him into a mascot, a weapon, or a myth. The other half ends with doors opening where doors shouldn't. A few end with, well, you don't need to picture that in your head. So we wrote him a calm, careful life, something most wouldn't classify as a life. He gets to use our secure garden nobody uses. He has access to read books that we provided under supervision. He is not a prisoner, but he has an escort. He is not a colleague, but he has a handler. Do not seek him out. Do not try to learn his walk. He is dangerous. If he looks through you like he's measuring the distance to something you can't see, that's because he is. And yet, very quietly, we asked something of ourselves. If there was one job only he could do. Next thing you know, we gave him a chance. We needed to give a new role, a role that wasn't a researcher, wasn't a guard, and wasn't expendable. We built it around him, almost like a scientific scout. We called him D-Scout, the pet project, for the RAISA. His job is simple and impossible. Probe reality-altering environments at the edge where our instruments lie. Not to wrestle them, just to learn where they begin to push back. He goes first into hallways that have corners at the wrong angles. He kneels in doorways that smell like a store he can't talk about. He leaves a thread where the thread won't get caught. He doesn't work beside scientists. He doesn't bunk with D-Class. He lives in the narrow corridor of protocol. Somewhere we used a person as a measuring stick, locked away and hidden. He'd be briefed by someone like me, then debriefed by someone at RAISA, writing everything down that he's experienced without mentioning his existence in public ledgers. Our agreement with him is precise. He is seen and not seen. When he returns from a probe, he's given hot food and a book and a day of silence. When we learn something new from how he moves, we teach it to a drone or a trainee and remove his involvement from the technique. Surprisingly, he actually asked not to exist before we could tell him he already didn't exist. We agreed. He'll never step back into the public. He won't have coffee with old friends or browse a normal store. He doesn't want to. The inside of 3008 turned shopping into reminders of hunting, and from hunting into prayer. After that, even a quiet aisle in the real world feels like a mouth to him, a beast bearing teeth. And if you're wondering whether 3008 still tries to hire new employees, the answer is yes. That's why this file exists. If the Foundation stumbles, someone will need to remember how the doors lie. On paper, this is a briefing about SCP-3008, but under RAISA, it's a reminder that some places don't want to be places. They want to be habits, the way you turn left without thinking, the way you follow an arrow because arrows are polite. The store is a machine that sells confidence. Step inside and it sells you certainty until there's nothing left in your pockets but hours. We used it once as a cage because we mistook inactivity for control. We stopped when it proved us wrong. It made us learn that the doors can open both ways or in new ones. Then a D-class, who walked inside and built a decade out of cardboard and willpower, walking back out with hands that can feel seams, where most eyes would see walls. We kept him not because he belongs to us, but because the world does not have the want to make room for someone like him, at least without becoming a different world. If you're watching this, you may be new or in need of a reminder. You will see footage and you will think the camera is lying. It isn't. The lens shows the illusions that any normal human would reject. And if there's audio, listen to it. Listen to the hum of the lights. And at last, remember, if one day you smell cafeteria steam in a corridor that has never had a cafeteria, stop. Close the door. Step back. Count to 10. Make sure the door you used is still a door. This is a RAISA approved backup, easily accessed if the main stacks go dark. Remember the 3 Ks: keep it clean, keep it short, keep it true. Now, for the announcement. The store is closed. Please leave. It was a bad joke, wasn't it?